Hey,
Hi.
hi. I say hi to you.
I say hey to you.
I say hey to you.
Hi.
Welcome
Welcome.
to the Buddy and Lisa show.
Yes,
I'm Lisa. Okay.
He lies.
All right. She's Buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you probably figured it out. I'm Buddy.
Just because he has the pretty long hair, he's not Lisa. We're the opposites here. People have
thank you
called
for
him
saying it's pretty.
ma'am by accident
Oh, yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, I've been in certain circumstances where someone will be behind me and they'll say, "Excuse me, ma'am," or "Excuse me, miss."
And what a surprise they have when he turns around and says, "Well, hello." And he has a nice big beard. But that's actually not what we're here to talk about.
We're not. Yeah, believe it or not, this is not all about how people mistake me for a woman, and we're talking about writing and books and
Mostly books today.
Mostly books today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not books. It's interesting. We're not talking about books in the context of what we've read, and there's a reason for that.
Yes. Or ones that we've written.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. We fully intended to actually talk about some of the books that we were reading. We have not finished said books yet.
No, we have not.
We have been kind of busy getting this all up and running and redoing our websites.
Yeah, and just other life things, where we haven't read as quite as much as we normally do or maybe might want to.
So we figured that there's lots of other topics to talk about. We've already talked about TV and movies, and we're going to be returning to that because we get we probably get a lot more of that. And then, maybe we should. Yeah. We might have finished the books if we didn't binge some of the good shows.
There's a couple things we recently started that we know we're going to want to talk about at some point.
Yeah, soon.
Yeah, very soon.
But there's a lot of things that are interesting about just being a reader. So this episode is kind of dedicated to readers.
Yeah, so if you are a reader, you're in the right place.
Just kind of all the things that like how we decide to choose a book to read.
Yeah.
If some of the methods that we use to confirm whether or not we want to read it are ones that we should be relying on. Reading supported kind of apps that are geared towards being for readers that can be really interesting.
Whether it's a physical book or sometimes you might prefer to have the audio version of a book.
Or an ebook.
Yeah,
so we're just going to be talking about reading because it's one of our, contrary to the fact that we haven't finished these books that we have finished books recently, but we wanted to have a couple books under our belt to have under on the show.
Yeah, and I don't think it's, telling any lies here to say that, both of us have been readers before and book lovers, story lovers, probably before anything else.
Well, true fact, and my mother will back this up, is I actually, the reason I was late, I was born late, which is probably why I arrived late to work a lot. But I was late because, one, I was in a cozy cave.
You were in a cozy cave?
But I was in a cozy cave reading. So I don't know if you know this about me, but one of the reasons why I was late was it was difficult for my poor mom to get me out with a book in hand. And so I came out when all the ladies
you had a book inside of your mom.
Yeah, all of the ladies out there are going, ooh, ow, C-section, please.
Wow.
Anyways, that may or may not actually be fiction.
Okay, I'll consult your doctor and see about that.
But yeah, oh gosh, I can remember one of my favorite memories of Mary Riley Stiles Library in Falls Church, Virginia, was my local library growing up. And they had a summer reading challenge for kids that I can't remember what it was. I think that the little piece of paper you got each year was different, but it always had something kind of cool on it that you could color in and make it your own too.
That's fun.
And then list the books that you read. And so the idea was it was supposed to encourage kids to read, a lot of books. And I used to go into the library with bags. And I remember I was reading so very much so quickly that they allowed me to start checking out more than what their maximum was.
Oh my gosh, do you remember how much that was?
I can't remember, but I know it was more than like 30 at it, maybe like 20 or 30 at a time.
Wow.
And I started reading like books that were older than my age pretty quickly. Which once I started really diving into that, I really didn't want the younger books.
Yeah, once you make that transition, it's kind
I
of...
was very short-lived in like middle grade, you know, all that. I kind of jumped into like what I guess would be, I don't even know if young adult really existed at that time.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm not that young anymore, but
I think that might have come a little bit later. I think it was there, but they didn't call it that.
Yeah, but like, you know, books that were tailored, that weren't like obviously saucy or anything like that, but definitely tailored vocabulary wise to older students. And I think it was just I suffered a little bit from dyslexia. With dyslexia, I still do, but it doesn't trip me up, you know, too much. Not when I'm reading, more if I'm reading and talking at the same time. But you know, just reading a lot helped me get over that, and of course, learning the words. And boy, in some ways, I wished, you know, tablets and all that existed, because or Kindles, because boy, now you can just hold the button and it tells you the definition.
It's amazing.
If you're on your tablet, you can hear it pronounced. It was a little bit
Sometimes
more
I'll be reading a physical book and I just want to press something, a word that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work.
So anyways, that's one of my first memories. And we had, what else did they do there that I loved? They had something called a reading corner. And I can't remember if it was once a week or like once a month, but they would have, it was like someone would come and do a reading, would actually read a book to the younger kids. And we would all sit around on the floor in like a little carpeted area that had like steps that served as like seats too, like a little mini auditorium. And so they would have someone present stories, and a lot of the times like they were very like kind of theatrical readers, you know, and all that.
That's great.
I wish I had paid more attention to who the people were and what their story was, but I was more interested in what they were going to entertain me with. I was maybe a little self-centered, but
well, that's a lot of fun. I remember doing reading contests, summer reading contests too. I remember it wasn't the library that put it on. I think it was at my school, and you know, I don't even know if they gave you like they might have given you a small goal to achieve, but I lived right across the street from the library.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Really, from the library's back door to my front door, less than a minute to walk. So I was over the library a lot. And back then it was a period too where I guess I was maybe 10 or so. There was a popular television series at that time called The Hardy Boys. And that was a newer version of it. I think that originally had come out, well, the books had come out, I think back in the 1940s or maybe the 50s at the latest. But there was a revival in the popularity of them because of this TV show that came out that starred Sean Cassidy, who was David Cassidy's little brother. He was a teen idol. Another guy, Parker Stevenson, really, really popular. A great mystery show about these brothers who solve crimes. And I got into the TV show, so that led me to read the books. And I want to say there was over 40 books in the series, and I think I read them all. I read everything that the library had. They had the entire set, and then that was the big thing that turned me into a reader. And then from there, like you, I was probably younger than I should have been when I started reading adult books. I remember reading, there was a popular TV miniseries back in the day.
Notice the connection between the books and the TV series. There was a popular TV series, so it led me to read.
I've always been a TV junkie, so yeah, you're right. That's very, very true. But there was something called Rich Man, Poor Man. That was written by Irwin Shaw, and it was this saga of these two brothers who couldn't be more different. One was this
rich man.
He was a rich man. He was a businessman, and I think he became a politician at some point. The other one was a guy who always got into trouble. He was the older brother. He was you're going to ruin it for everybody. But yeah, he was a poor man. He had struggles. He was a boxer. They were very, very different. But it became a popular TV miniseries. It starred Nick Nolte, who is still acting. He's in his 80s now. Probably all know Nick Nolte. But that was the first like grown-up book that I read, and from there I read like all of that author's books, and as like an 11, 12-year-old, and I didn't understand a lot of it, especially when they got into the sex type stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. Well, we'll just move on past that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like you, book lover forever.
Now, did you ever Did your family ever read books out loud, or grandparents read books to you or out loud, or did you?
Yeah, I think I was much younger.
Okay.
Well, probably like most kids. I would have like the Dr. Seuss books read to me. And I remember this book called Peter Perfect, where it was this little boy, his name was Peter, and everything he did was perfect.
He was perfect.
Stop it. Yeah, yes, he was perfect. Peter was perfect. But I think that at the very end of the book, he did something that wasn't perfect. And the whole point was to show that nobody's absolutely 100% perfect. But anyway, I remember that being a favorite book. And I remember my mom in particular reading that to me over and over again. So both my mom and, what are you doing there?
I am.
Well, she is perfect.
No, I'm really not. But
it's perfect for me.
Poor guy.
That's the screen cap for this one.
I actually that's a quick little funny segue. I'm bad at phrases. I was about to say something else that wasn't right, but anyways, I'm just segueing all over the place.
A quick little cheesesteak.
Probably something like that. No,
sounds good. We should get cheesesteaks.
Oh my god.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, no. In one of the screenshots that he had for our podcast, he didn't, pretty boy over here pays attention to what he looks like in the captions, but doesn't, I think his eyes forget to drift over to his co-host.
That is not true.
So he sends me a clip that I can share on social media pages, and it looks like I am preparing to eat a leg of lamb or maybe leg of elephant. And he's perfectly, wonderful. And me, I'm like.
I saved that one because I knew that there was something really eloquent coming out of your mouth at that point.
Also a rare thing.
Not true. Not true.
But, talking about reading out loud, that was something that I think one of my first my first big book club was with my mom. My mom was really into reading. My dad, not so much. I don't think I ever saw my dad ever pick up anything other than the newspaper. He was a banker, so we always wanted to look at whatever bankers look at in the paper. But my mom and I have lots of memories of her and I going back and forth reading one chapter to whatever. Now, I'm not going to lie here, and she will totally tell you this. I might have preemptively looked to see whose chapters were going to be longer or shorter, and that decided when I started reading versus my mom, because my mom would be like, oh, I need another cup of water. I'm getting these really long chapters. Oh, what a weird coincidence.
What a weird coincidence. You had nothing to do with that.
But some of we've watched, speaking of the segue to TVs, not to TVs, but we didn't read like manuals on how to build them or anything like that. But
I did. I thought that was the assignment.
But TV series, Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Little Prairie.
Oh, A Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie. I was like little.
I didn't read those. Yeah.
They were actually really, really good.
I think as a little boy, I was like, oh, those are girly books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've watched them and I've enjoyed them thoroughly.
I loved Anne of Green Gables. In fact, it's been we own all of them, the series on the TV, and I've been thinking I want to rewatch some of those because I just loved them so much. One of our friends and I had an instant connection with Anne of Green Gables.
Oh yeah,
Michelle.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so reading was, it's such a shared experience in some ways. It's not, I guess, while you're doing it most of the time, but it is something that really brings people together.
Oh yeah,
I know just having a book. I read mostly ebooks nowadays because we only have so much square footage in our wonderful apartment, and we still have hundreds of books here.
Yeah.
But we have even more than that on our Kindle, and
yeah.
I don't need reading glasses. These are, for distance so I can see you through the video. But
it's creepy, isn't it?
But I will say that it's nice, to be able, when your eyes are tired, to instantly change the lighting and the background, and all that other stuff.
Exactly.
But
well, I was just gonna say, if you don't mind me interrupting,
yeah.
is that when there was first talk, gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was now, probably, I would guess maybe around the turn into the 21st century, about ebooks being a possibility. I was negative towards that idea at first. I was like, I mean, some of my friends who were like really into technology and getting all the new things, like the new phones and new computers, were like, "This is great. You can have all your books on this one little device." And I was like, "I'm old." I didn't say I was old school, but I was adamant that I was not going to do that.
Right.
I wanted the physical books. I've been reading physical books my whole life. I was already an adult at that point. I wasn't going to make that transition, even though it would be a neat thing and all that. But boy, once I got my first Kindle,
I was a little bit of a late adopter to a lot of that stuff, even like social media and stuff like that. But I finally, I do remember, and I was actually so sorry, Amazon. I mean, we own everything Amazon now, but please don't hate us for that. But I didn't get my first e-reader was actually a Nook.
Oh, that's right.
And I loved my Nook. I thought the Kindles were the stupidest things with these little keyboards at the bottom. Remember the old original ones with the keyboards at the bottom? But then when I got into the writing community and all of that stuff, that's what got me into. Everybody was talking about their Kindle, and I was like, well, okay, let me go ahead and get one of those. So for a while, I had both a Nook and a Kindle. But
you saying, like you said, you love that Nook.
Oh, I loved my Nook.
That's the first e-reader I ever saw. Because I would go to Barnes and Noble stores, and you could see them there on display. And
they were like ahead of Amazon at that time. But Amazon quickly, they kind of stopped evolving. Their growth kind of, I think, and some of the CEOs and tech people who have worked for Amazon in interviews have said that they kind of missed the mark on some of the things, and Amazon saw opportunities, and that's what, went in there. And I think, well, the rest is history. I mean, I think there's, Kobo, I think has a pretty big cult following nowadays.
And of course, so many people, a lot of people read books on their phones and just on their iPads.
Exactly. I know the Apple iPad Mini is kind of their version of an e-reader, but it's not an e-reader, it's a screen. That's the other thing, is the e-reading screen is really good on your eyes. And it also makes, if you want to read before you go to bed at night, if you have a physical book, you either have to have a book light, which I just never could find one that worked and made me happy.
I remember you bought some that
they just didn't work right. So you have to have the overhead light on and all these other lights, which any light that you have keeps you up.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I like about.
You can adjust the lighting. It's really nice.
Yeah. So so Nook was the first e-reader that I had, and now one thing that I was poo-poo on, and I didn't understand at first why people liked it, was in the old days it was called books on tape.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I did not understand why you would ever. I was like, that is not reading. It is not reading. You can't tell me any other difference. Fast forward to today, I absolutely love audiobooks, and I don't know how I didn't. They enabled me to read more, because I can do, if it's a quiet, slow day at work, I can pop in my AirPod, listen to a little bit, pause it when things come up, if you're doing something monotonous in the kitchen, you can pop them in while you're washing some dishes or folding laundry, and it's just amazing.
It is.
And traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, books on tape was not an easy thing either. I remember getting some books on tape from my public library, the one I mentioned earlier, which was at 5th and Delaware in historic Newcastle. And I remember getting like a Lawrence Block thing, something I had already read the physical copy of, but I wanted to try an audiobook. And it was several tapes, because you could only fit so much on a cassette tape. So you would get like 5 or 6 tapes for like a 300-page novel back then.
Wow.
And not an easy, I mean, it's easy, but it's just kind of clunky, and gosh, so much easier now. And then I remember, did they ever have them on CD? I guess they had them on CD
Oh
too,
yeah,
right?
they still do.
I guess
today,
I did get some on CD also.
Yeah.
But
well, I don't know if they still make them on CD, but I know it wasn't that long ago that you did see them some places.
Right.
But,
But now I don't listen to I'm slowly making the transition to listening to them once in a while. Like I mentioned this during one of the other shows, is that I'm listening right now to Whisper. Is it Whisperman or The Whisperman?
The Whisperman.
The Whisperman, yeah. And the narrator on that is Christopher Eccleston, who was one of the Doctor Who's. Yeah, and he just does such a fantastic job on this book. It makes me want to look and see if he's a narrator on other books. If you get a strong narrator, oh man, that is such a...
Well, and that's kind of one of the things that when people tell me, who still have the viewpoint of audiobooks that I did before, like that's not reading, that's not how you experience a book. I would argue that sometimes there are books that might not land the way they were intended by the author in paper and in written form, but if you get the right narrator, oh my God, they can make a story come to life in a completely different way. It's kind of magical because they just they're another artist who puts their own kind of spin on certain things and can really, I mean, conversely, a not great one can really make, I mean, there's been some, thank God there's, the apps you can change the speeds, because there have been some where, and God, I don't know how the different speeds that these platforms give you, I mean, it's like 5 times the normal speed. Like, who is listening? Who has the ability or brain power to process that information that quickly?
The most I've gone comfortably is like 2 times the speed, and even that was a stretch.
Yeah, I think mine was 1.5, and it was like, I mean, someone who literally just had woken up from a nap to record the book. But
I think I mostly did that when I was getting at the point where I just wanted to finish the damn thing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it wasn't something where I was in love with the narrator, but I was committed to finishing the book.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me just speed this up so I can be done by the time I have to pick you up from work or something like that.
But there's just audio books. I mean, like Remarkably Bright Creatures, and I can't remember who the narrator is. Well, there's multiple narrators on that. But who played Marsalis, the octopus?
It was it's funny. I was gonna look for my phone. I was reaching in my pocket.
Okay.
I'm recording with it. It was. Oh gosh, I can't remember the actor's name, but he is actually on the show Shrinking with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. He is Jason Segel's best friend.
Yes.
Who's a lawyer.
Oh yes. That little guy. Yes.
Little guy.
So sorry. When I say little, I don't mean like, hey, little guy. I mean it in a like loving way. Like I like that guy.
Yeah. But anyway, you have a.
Oh my God!
I heard of that book is you played for me.
I mean, I still haven't read the book, but I started to read the book just because I was curious to see how it would feel, and I was like, oh my God, the narrators, but all the narrators of that book just made that book come to life in a completely different way, and I couldn't go back to consuming it in any other way because they just blew my indeed as in Marsalis.
And like you said, all the narrators, some are big productions. I know. I think it was I didn't listen to it, but I had read the graphic novels it was based on was The Sandman. They had done an adaptation of the graphic novels, the Neil Gaiman books. And it was like this big star-studded cast, for the audio version of it.
Well,
I think it was an Amazon or Audible exclusive or something like that.
The President is Missing.
Oh,
that whole series has like a huge cast. But then there was, I haven't listened to it yet, but we got an audio book.
The President is Missing. Dennis Quaid was the main narrator on that, and he's a very famous actor. He was fantastic.
I can't remember what. There was another. Lincoln in the Bardo by George. There are, I think, something around 150 narrators or something. And I'm really curious. I've not listened to that yet, and I can't wait to listen to it.
Sounds like an amazing book.
You talk about a star-studded cast. I mean, if you look at like some of the names that are in there, and I mean, who knows, they might have one line they read or whatever, but I'm really curious to see how sometimes when you get the multiple narrators, it's good, sometimes it can be distracting. Now one thing I would say is really good about that is when you get, I don't know how I feel sometimes about some narrators manipulating their voice to create a new voice. I'll tell you, some can do it really well, but some, I'm going to be honest, I've kind of been like, oh, I wish they would stop doing that, and I wish there was just someone else who narrated that part to make it sound differently.
Like if there's a character that is a 95-year-old man, I can if you just tell me it's a 95-year-old man, I don't need to hear,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And did they sound like a 95-year-old man? Oh, maybe I could be a narrator.
Yeah. I mean, he's not far from it, really, so it's
Wow, yeah. I love you too. But no, it's true. I mean, some are incredible. Some of the narrators are incredible. But sometimes they maybe go a little overboard with the narration. But, I want to end this section of the show on a positive note to say that overall, I mean, I've been blown away by most of the narrators I've heard.
And I think audiobooks are on the rise because look, I mean, you see people all the time talk about how they don't have enough time for this and enough time for that. And one of the things as a writer, aside from a person who's just loved, reading, I mean, you don't have to read. There are some people, shout out to one of my professors, Lauren Forey, who read like a machine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it'll be like 5 minutes into a year and she's like on her 80th book.
Yeah, she'll post how many books she's
it's
read
really, her
point.
life is just consuming. And I mean, this is a person who's a professor who reads other people's work. So I just...
it blows me away. I mean, some people, like my friend Deanna, if you're listening, Deanna Anderson, she posts every month with the books she's read for the month. And she's a full-time job. She's got 2 small children. Yeah. But, she does it. I know some of my friends, like Colleen Riley, if you're listening or watching, another one, full-time job. She also has 2 children. I think she has like maybe an hour-long commute to work. So she listens to audiobooks. And what's nice is you don't even have to buy the audiobooks now. Like I think Colleen mostly gets them from Libby and things like that.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about some of these reader-assisted apps.
Little teaser there.
Reader apps. But going back just a second to my professor, Lauren Forey, she's also a writer. And she is a writer of multiple books. I want to believe that her first, if I remember correctly, her first book was Abigail Hall.
I think so,
If I know her latest book is Gemma. I'm pretty sure that was her latest one. But anyways, she's a writer. She's a consumer of everything. So she is not a consumer of everything. It made me sound like she goes to a party and she eats the whole buffet table when she rides in.
And if you want to learn more about her, she was on my other podcast, on the Pop and Pro show. I interviewed her about her book Gemma, which it was a new release at that point last year. Yeah. And we talked about her other books too.
And she writes about as fast as she reads stuff because she'll be like, wrapping up a capstone class for school, reading people's manuscripts while she's finished her 180th book of the year to read, and then she's like finishing edits on her next book to write. So massive props to people who do that. I am a little slower in everything that I do, but
reading, it can be very, very time consuming, and it's something you have to make time for sometimes. And we've said that recently, that as much as we love, as much as we both love reading,
it can be so easy to get pulled away from it and do other things.
We love binge watching TV shows. We've been on a movie kick lately.
Yeah. And I commend, there's so many. There's a bookish person I follow on Instagram that I remember her bio was that she dumped Netflix. She traded Netflix in for books and just became this like prolific
really nice.
reader, where she's kind of like one of these people who just reads, super fast and all that. And I think that's awesome. But I also do like TV, and I think, as a writer, like a consumer of stories, consuming stories in all their different forms is really interesting, because sometimes I will see something depicted, or what is particularly interesting to me is watching actors act out a specific scene that's silent. They don't say anything, they're just moving. And it's really interesting to really pay attention to what fine details they're doing in their movement to then mimic how you're going to describe that writing it. It really makes you kind of like visualize things a little bit easier, and then help, creatively explain, write it down. I'm so much better when I write than when I talk. But all that to say, I applaud people who give up TV altogether to read, but I'm kind of one of the, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of this,
What's kind of, it's because you said TV there a couple of times, it made me think of sort of the reverse of what we said earlier about how these many TV shows and mini series had turned me into books. Sometimes books had turned me on to TV shows. For example, I read the first, there's a popular TV show now called Tracker.
Oh yeah,
Justin
that's
Hartley.
right. I forgot that was before you started reading it, before we watched it.
Exactly, and I had, before it came out, I had read the first 2 books in the series. I believe there's now 4 novels in it, but I had read the first 2, so that got me excited when the series came out. I was looking forward to it. Another one too that's kind of, I don't know why I was about to say odd, but there was a legendary popular show that came out probably over 20 years ago now called Monk with Tony Shalhoub, and very, very popular.
Love it.
And there was a long-running series of tie-in novels that they were separate stories from the TV show, but they featured like all the characters from the TV show. And they were written by, at least the first 14 or 15 of them were written by one of my favorite authors, Lee Goldberg. So I had tried the TV show Monk once, and for whatever reason, I didn't connect with it the first time I tried it. But I figured I would read, I know, right? So I figured, well, I'm going to try Lee's books. And I read the first one, loved it. I read like 2 or 3 more. Then I loved them so much, I started watching the TV show, and then I ended up binge watching that whole TV show. So sometimes, these things can cross over and make you become a fan of, like, for example, we are very, very into Dexter. We love the TV series, all the different versions of Dexter, the TV series.
We're going to be, once they wrap up this Resurrection, we're going to
do a show just on Dexter Resurrection.
That, by the way, was me being a serial killer.
Creepy, isn't she?
I
love you, but you're creepy.
Yeah, and we have like really cool little preview for that show. Is we have really cool mugs.
She ordered these mugs. She found them, and
from England,
from London. Yeah. So
they're
awesome. We're gonna use them.
Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just that we love that so much, and that was actually based on a series of books. So I'm going to go back, and I haven't read any of those. I know that they're different. They followed like a different storyline for the character.
Cool. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I don't know if they started the same, but then I think the TV series branched off on its own, much like say not Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Like that. Apparently, the HBO series is much different. It went much further than the books did.
Yes.
Because it lasted so long. So, I'll shut up about TV stuff now because there's so much else we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Well, one of the things we've talked about how we consume books, how books, affect us, how we kind of like got into reading long ago, and another thing is how to select books as a reader.
Yeah.
And we've actually had 99% of this show, by the way, is inspired by really long conversations we have at this
same
table.
Yeah.
Which usually end up making me late to work some days because we just get to rambling.
They're having coffee.
And we were talking about, book reviews and book covers and kind of like the things that influence us. And one thing that I kind of questioned is really, as an author, we always try to get as many good book reviews as we possibly can, right? Or we hope for that.
Yeah.
We don't try to get them, but we hope to get as many good reviews as we can. But in some ways, it's made me think lately, while I have become, the digital age is both, I always say all the time, technology is wonderful except for when it isn't. And while it's given us so many wonderful things, in some ways it's given us things that I have grown reliant on using. And I have started to question myself as to whether or not my reliance on and kind of just routine of using them is not necessarily a good thing. back in the day, there was no, and we'll talk about some of the platforms that are great for readers, like a Goodreads or, Amazon. There was literally nothing online to go look up reviews for something. So you went into the library or a bookstore, you looked at the cover, you looked at the back blurb, maybe you perused the first couple pages, and you made your decision off of that.
Yeah.
But now, a lot of us, I think, unfortunately, even as a self-published author, on the heels of self-publishing becoming a huge thing, inevitably, while there are some books that are not as, popular or as engrossing as a publisher might make you, believe they are, and a lot of that, this is all subjective, obviously. I think I got to the point where I didn't necessarily want to read something that, unfortunately, there are a lot more books that might have benefited from a little bit more collaboration, a little bit, maybe one more pass through the read. And, sometimes you heard about, largely, I would say that's not the case, by the way. But I think especially in the beginning.
I think most of them go through the processes that they need to.
I think, in the beginning there was some worry about that and worry that you're going to get a book that's just, and unfortunately I have read that, where I have tried to read some books where every other line is littered with so many typos, you wonder if the person even looked at it before they hit publish.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so I think I started to get to the point where I started looking at reviews because I got burned a couple times. I was totally into trying to help an indie and read an indie and do that. And while, yes, there's typos and things like that in a traditionally published book, we're all human, there's human error. You didn't really see that because they wouldn't throw that much money and time and expense into a book that literally hadn't even been edited once.
Makes the publisher look bad.
So I started paying attention to reviews, mainly to look for that. If I saw one after another review, like, was this even edited? I started looking at the previews, paying attention to those to really see if I could see anything critical.
Yeah,
well, I think
the samples.
Yeah.
That's one thing great about like ebook, well, any kind of book. You can get a great sample from Amazon and all the other places.
And I think in some ways it was almost like a gateway drug. It was a gateway drug to review binging.
Yeah.
Where then I almost started to think in my head what quantified a good book versus, and I really want to encourage people to, including myself, to think about labeling something as a good book or a bad book. But something maybe that I wanted to read versus something that I was more hesitant of. And I started putting these star limits on them. And I think some of it was influenced by, just a lot of forces. I mean, I've also been burned the other way, by the way, where there's literally everyone in the entire planet and maybe some other planets nearby have left a review for a book and they're largely 5 stars, and I read it and I go, this is so not me and not at all what I anticipated.
I've had that too. Yeah.
And I realized to a certain extent, art is subjective, but I do wonder if we're influenced by those reviews, both positively and negatively.
I'm not going to play with my hair all night. It's
pretty boy problem.
It was tickling my neck.
If you are married to someone like this, what you need to use is hashtag pretty boy problems.
Oh my goodness.
He even says it.
Oh my goodness.
He even says it now. He'll be like, hashtag pretty boy problems.
I forget what I was going to say. Oh, just that... being influenced by stuff. I think that's a problem because you can hear about it's the same with movies or music or even TV shows where you hear so much hype around something. Yeah. You hear that it's like the best thing and that you have to read it. Yeah. One that I think I heard a little bit too much hype about and I ended up being a little disappointed in it, where to the point where I didn't even finish it, was The Martian. Andy Weir's book, The Martian, which is very, very popular. I've subsequently read another. But anyway, let me go back. I started reading it years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, because it was when we went up to Hamburg, PA, which is a beautiful place. And
Luther Burgers.
Yeah.
Look those up.
Yeah, look up Luther Burgers. That was great. We got to go back there again. But I was into it. At first, I was enjoying it, but I was like, I don't feel this is the 5-star book that I keep seeing over and over again. And sometimes the hype can be a little too much, and that's something too that if anyone's going to leave any comments on this show in the various platforms it's in, I'd be curious to hear what people think about that themselves. About a lot of the things we're talking about.
I think it's almost
how much do those influence you?
Well, in similar ways, just talking about reviews at large. I was talking to someone somewhere about something that had nothing to do with books, but we were talking about reviews, and we were looking at comparing reviews on a site, and I remember the woman said to me, it was about my dress at Chico's.
Oh yeah.
I saw this beautiful dress at Chico's, one of my favorite stores ever, and it had horrible reviews. And again, I can see the dress, but I look for things like, did people who might be shaped like me have problems, with it? Did somebody get it and 5 minutes later the thread fell out of it and it fell apart? Those types of things. But these people were like, oh my God, it's a circus tent. It's, terrible. Well, it had like a 2-star review on it. And I was like, well, I just think it was a good price. It was on sale and it was pretty. So I thought, I can return it. If I don't like it, I'm going to not pay attention to it. And it is one of my favorite pieces that I've ever owned. And every single time I wear it, I get nothing but compliments from every single person I bump into, at work.
Great in that.
So it kind of kicked off a conversation of and I remember this woman saying, you kind of just have to not pay attention to reviews, because she says, I find you get 2 groups of people. She goes, you get people who feel influenced to leave a super positive review, or people who are very angry about something and they've gone in to do it. And, I've thought about most of the readers I've worked with, and when I've talked about reviews, asking them if they review books for an author, from an author standpoint, most people say, oh, I never leave reviews. And it does make me wonder if sometimes the people who are leaving reviews are, not the mainstream, reader and all that. But all that winding around to say that it really started to make me realize, gosh, I don't know if I should be relying on the reviews as much, because old me used to just rely on what spoke to me. And there have been books that I was really excited about, but I ended up not reading them or not putting them on my wish list because I saw it had 3.1 stars. And I'm like, oh, is that really going to be that good? But then there's been times I've read lower starred books that I've absolutely loved, and I'm like, why are people not loving this?
Exactly. And now for me, I'm really funny when it comes to reviews, whether it's a book or a movie. I basically don't want to read the reviews at all if I'm interested in reading it or watching it, whatever the case is. But what I'll do generally is look and see what those star ratings are. And I kind of I kind of opt usually for something that's maybe more in the middle.
Yeah.
Because especially when a new book comes out and you see nothing but 5 stars, sometimes it's from the author's diehard fans, or both of us have done things where we've read books through NetGalley, where you can get books before they're even published. And I think unfortunately some people are very sincere in the reviews they leave, but I think some people like to give nothing but good reviews because they think if they don't do that, the publishers are not going to keep giving them these free books ahead of the time that they're published. I mean, it's a crapshoot, but I think you have to find your own middle ground and what works for you. And unfortunately too, and I know we have to move on to other things, is that I think sometimes books are given unfair reviews because of something that people like or don't like about that author. I've seen that recently, unfortunately, where some authors have maybe leaned one way or the other politically, and have been very outspoken about things, and you'll see that reflected in the reviews that they get, and it will even be in the comments. Like I'm using this just as an example. Someone's be like, I'm not going to read this book by this Trump hater or this Trump lover, and they'll give it like a 1 star or no star, and is that fair? I mean,
it has nothing to do with the book.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and that kind of goes to your point where you said you look at just the ratings, and I think there's a danger, because I kind of did the same thing, because like you, I didn't want spoilers, and because
people give spoilers.
Not everybody is good about indicating when they're about ready to reveal a big spoiler. So then you look at the ratings, but then if you've gone to any book review site anywhere, and I'm sure it's the same for movies and music and everything, different people have a different viewpoint of what each star means, and sometimes different sites have a different thing.
Very true.
Like, I think, and so then you're swirling you're basically making up what you think that star rating means without actually even knowing anything about the person who gave it that or the place where it was at. So all that to say, where I'm actually starting to tell myself to get off of that drug, to stop, stop doing the, to make sure that I'm going back to my roots of giving more books a chance based on how I feel about what I am reading about it, as far as what the author and publisher is telling me.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too.
In the same vein, and I know I'm a sucker for this, is, oh my God, if there is a nice cover. Oh, if there's just special edition. I haven't even gotten to the blurb yet, and I want to read this book. I want to eat it. Because it's deliciously beautiful, and it just speaks to me.
Move that a little closer to the camera. It's just the paper. Everyone can see it, just how nice it is. Yeah.
I'm really excited to read this.
And what's that called? The Buffalo People?
Buffalo Hunter.
Buffalo Hunter.
Yeah. I'm very, I want to read this sooner rather than later. Said Professor that I mentioned earlier just finished this.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
I keep seeing people, read it. But anyways, covers speak to me.
Yeah.
I am not a official artist, but I like to dabble in graphic design. I took some graphic design courses in my various degree programs. I love, I don't know, just playing around with images and stuff like that. So a piece of it, to me, covers are like, artwork.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a danger too.
It is a danger too.
Because there are a lot of books that have, especially nowadays, covers have in some ways become somewhat simplistic in a lot of platforms. I'm gonna say Amazon. I notice this a lot with their publishing houses. There's more of an emphasis on the font than there is on the actual imaging of the covers. And I think some of that is because when you're dealing with thumbnail pictures of a book, you want the name of the book and the author to stand out, and you want everything else to kind of complement it. But there's a danger in that too, because really whoever created the art had nothing to do more than likely with the actual content of the book, and the two might not. There could be someone who has the most simplistic cover ever, and I'm going to talk about Nita Prose with the Maid series. Her books are pretty, the covers are pretty simplistic. They don't, they're not bad covers, but they are very, kind of, they're mostly just,
they all have the same sort of look, but maybe it goes for her branding, but
and I think, I don't know, we went to one of our local bookstores, Huxley and Hero in Wilmington, Delaware,
on Market Street in Wilmington, Delaware,
and they have a stack of books that are wrapped in parchment, and they're taped. And on the outside, they say what genre it is, and they give you like a quick synopsis of what you'll kind of get from it. And you have to buy it sealed. And so they remove the ability to know what it is. So you can't even pull your phone out of your, purse or pants and look it up to look at the reviews. You can't use the cover to entice you, you're going back to kind of what I was saying is the roots, which is you're just paying attention to what the book has to say and doing that.
Yeah, and there's a famous line too: you can't judge a book by looking at the cover or at its cover.
And it's true.
It is true. It is true.
But
sometimes that'll be the thing that entices us.
Yeah, exactly.
But we shouldn't let it be the thing that necessarily deters us.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Great line.
Well, thank you very much. Now, what's funny is the covers don't mean as much to me.
Yeah, and I think probably a lot of people would say that.
You could ask me right now, you know, to talk about the covers of my 10 favorite novels that are back there on our shelves, and I could maybe describe 2 of them. You know, I don't know. You know, I know who they're by, and I know vaguely what color they might be.
Wait, this sounds kind of like when he's describing a car he sees on the street. Well, what kind of car is it? It's gray?
I'm not a car guy, okay? I'm not a car person.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Funny.
You're right.
Yeah.
But so to some people, the covers mean more than others. But and what's funny is, like you said, like who was it? Frida McFadden mentions that the author that does the not who were you just talking about? The sitter, the house, the
Nita Prose.
Nita Prose. Thank you. But
ironically, she had Housemaid,
and Frida McFadden.
The Maid, and that's Frida McFadden.
Gotcha. But you were talking about the simplistic cover there. Some of the most famous books ever have very simplistic ones.
Absolutely.
There is, I think it's the most popular, I don't think it was the original edition of the book, but I think it's the most popular edition of the book that's been out there for over 40, 50 years, probably more than that, of The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Very, very basic. It's sort of like this darkish red background, and the title is just in yellow font.
And that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well,
nothing too special.
Really far back in the day, I'm pretty sure there were no book covers. They were just the titles of the book on the outside of a leather, bound, book. So I mean, I think it's somewhat of and I think you're right. I think it's to a specific group of readers, me. That need to kind of, again, detox off of the looking at the, I mean, sometimes I am so enamored with a good art book that I want to instantly buy it without even reading the blurb. Yeah. I just need to have, it's like it's collecting that piece of art almost. And so, I've kind of making myself maybe step back from that and focus more on just what the book is about. And I think also you might automatically buy authors' books.
Yes.
And I think that's great that you're a cult follower. But I will say there have been times when I have done that and I'm like, oh, I probably should have read what that book was about before I did it, because while I'm sure it is a wonderful book, it is not up my alley.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a danger in that, because I recently had a fairly good streak with reading James Patterson books. I think I read 3 or 4 in a row that I liked quite a bit. And I know a lot of people hate on James Patterson because of how many books he publishes. That's something too where I think he sometimes gets unfairly knocked in reviews because people are like, oh, he's a hack writer because he puts out a book every month or every 2 months.
Because he collaborates. But it's mostly the other, he's giving somebody else the opportunity to publish under his name.
Yeah, but I had a good streak, so we bought a book by him without barely paying attention to what the plot was. I think we looked at it, we thought, oh, okay, it looks like it might be okay, but we didn't read a sample or anything. And we both we each had a copy of it, because I think one of us had it in an ebook and the other had it, or we're both reading the ebook of it. But I think we each got, maybe 50 pages into it, and we had to stop. I don't want to say which one it is, because I don't want to influence anyone's opinion, but so sometimes even if you love the author, you might want to take that extra care and read what it's about.
You bringing that up brings up another thing that readers, this is a hot topic that a lot of readers kind of debate. Is should you finish? And I was a stickler about this for so many years, which is you don't dare have an opinion about a book until you finish reading it from the beginning to the end. I'm going to have to tell you, I no longer follow that rule. Yeah. I have a different rule, which is I have a couple different metrics where you need to catch me by. It's not like I'm going to give up in the first 10 pages or so, but I at least try to make it at least a quarter to a third of the way through the book. because I feel like if you haven't hooked the reader in some aspect, like I'm not saying you have to have, I read a lot of literary fiction, so I am not necessarily only hunting something that has action-packed scenes, but I need to love something, like, or even hate it. I need to have some sort of like, ooh, I want this bad guy to get caught, or oh, I really love the characters, or I absolutely love the description of the setting, something about it that propels me to keep forward with it. And it's not necessarily, by the way, I will not ever leave a review for a book that I don't finish.
That's how I feel too.
Because I didn't finish it purely because it just didn't resonate with me. And sometimes I go back and I check that book later on to see, was I just in a funky mood where that particular book wasn't speaking to me, and I might now. But I know that's a big hot topic for people.
I mean, I think the only exception I might make with that is if I just knew that there was one horrible thing in there after another, you know, like maybe say it did have a lot of editorial type things, or it was something that maybe the publisher didn't advertise correctly.
Right.
Like I had a problem with something else this year too, where the title was very misleading.
Yes, boy, I've had that. Yes.
Yeah, the title was misleading, where it ended up, and the blurb. And the plot didn't actually relate to it, or not fully enough.
And there were questions even about whether the title should have been what it was.
Well, and also with that, now you read a lot of literary fiction, and while I love that too, I read a lot of mysteries, a lot of murder mysteries. And I read something a year or so ago where this was supposed to be a murder mystery, and I had gotten over 100 pages into the book, and a murder hadn't happened yet. I'm like, come on, you know, I want to see a killing here. I'm reading this because you told me someone's going to get killed, and they're going to start investigating this, and that's why I read these kinds of books. And you know, that kind of thing can really, you know, piss me off. Excuse the language.
So there can be different reasons. So I used to be a stickler to that, but honestly, there are so many books that exist that I could never even hope to read within multiple lifetimes, that I very rarely ever reread books, except for like things that really speak to me, that are like, there's a couple holiday books that I have read repeatedly in my life. But I mean, outside of that, there's just so much out there that I kind of want to keep moving forward and digging my way through it, as opposed to rehashing the same thing, you know, over and over again.
Did you reread the Harry Potter books? Because I know you were pretty into the Harry Potter.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I started to at one point, but then something else got my eye, and
you know, what's funny is, for me, I think I was more inclined to reread books back before the Kindle days.
Yes.
Where, you know, maybe, you know, even back then, you know, books weren't the cheapest thing in the world. So if I had favorites, I might reread them. And one thing that's kind of neat now about getting older and having been a reader for a long time, sometimes I'll pick up a book that I read back in my teens or my 20s, which was decades ago, and I pick it up now, and I might remember bits and pieces of it, but some are murder mysteries, like Lawrence Block. I picked up a Lawrence Block book recently, and I couldn't remember who the killer was, so it was almost like I was reading a new book again. So that's kind of neat. It wasn't because I have a bad memory; it's just it was a long time ago.
Yeah, you can only remember so many details. So we've mentioned a couple of different things. Like, so what are some favorite apps that we love? For readers. So everybody probably has heard of Goodreads before. There's another one there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
But the two that I think recently spoke to us the most, I mean, we've been in Goodreads for a long time, but Fable is a fairly new one. I was on there and I thought that was going to be my new book app, but unfortunately, I use Goodreads I use Goodreads to keep track of what editions of books. So it's easy. Buddy will be like, oh, do we own blah, blah, blah? And I'll look in Goodreads and I'll be like, we own it as a hardcover. We own it as an audiobook. You know, when you own like hundreds and hundreds of books, you kind of have to keep track of how they are. And Fable at the time, at least, did not have the ability to do that. But I do like Goodreads. I love the giveaways that they list in there.
And obviously, you might find things about one or another that are just extra appealing to you. Like initially with Fable, I think we both liked the idea that you would keep a streak. Every day you read, and it's kind of fun to challenge yourself to read so many days in a row, or weeks in a row, or months, or whatever. And that's kind of fun. So
and Kindle has that, but
yeah, Kindle does have that. Yeah. So, but yeah, those kinds of things are fun. And yeah, Goodreads, I've been on there now. Gosh, probably before we were even together.
So then we have, some of the other reader apps that I love. Obviously, the ones that actually you listen to, like Audible, Libro.
Oh yeah, I want to know more about this.
Libro is you want to know. Libro is a kind of audiobook version of bookshop.org. So anybody who hears like independent bookstores kind of saying, look, you can buy our books online now. That's where you usually go, is like bookshop.org is a way that you can select your local bookstore. And when you buy a book, a portion of the proceeds goes to support that specified bookstore. And you can change it each order if there's several you want to support. Well, they came out with, I think a lot of people were like, hey, first they went from just physical books to adding ebooks on the bookshop.org. And I think bookshop.org said that they are actively working with, I think, Kindle actually, which kind of shocked me, to make it so that somebody could buy an ebook from bookshop.org. The money would go to support their local bookstore. I
love that.
But then it shows up on your Kindle. As it is right now, you can only read it, I think, on like the Bookshop app. But then they took it a step further, and people were like, well, what about audiobooks? So now they came up with a companion app called Libro.fm. Not gonna say I maybe love the name of that, but I guess it's kind of reminiscent of almost like a radio station for books.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it's actually pretty clever. I'll just shut up about that. But Libro.fm, same thing. You can get an audio book from them, and you can pick a local store that you want to support. I love them.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things. Now, I was a big Audible person beforehand. So this was kind of like you have to pry my Audible subscription from my cold, dead hard hands, whatever that phrase is. But there were a couple things about the Audible app and Audible experience that annoyed me. One, once you get a subscription with credits, you have to keep your subscription ongoing. Even if you end up having 52 credits available, and you say, wow, I think I have enough, I'm going to take a break paying for this. Well, the moment you take a break,
credits disappear?
If you cancel your subscription or whatever, then you lose your credits. That didn't sit well with me. So then I'd be in a situation where I'm like, okay, well, let me just like hurry up and like buy a whole bunch of books that look interesting to me. The other thing that I didn't like, and it annoys me so very much, is that it never showed you the percentage of how far you were in the book.
Yeah.
I like to update my Goodreads. I realize nobody else is looking at it except for me, but I like to see the update. I like to update that. It never had it. Libro, by the way, if you cancel or pause your subscription, you retain whatever credits you have for life. They are yours because you paid for them, and it makes sense.
Wow.
And their app actually has a percentage on there. I actually find their app is much easier to kind of search for things and all that. So they've kind of become my preferred place to purchase audiobooks.
I haven't really checked them out yet. And I know you started using the library for some audio.
Libby.
Books, right? Yeah,
Libby. Yeah, Libby is an amazing app. Kindle
Hoopla
books.
is another way you can get stuff from.
Yes.
I haven't tried audiobooks there yet, but I think Hoopla, you can get like 4 or 5 borrows a month just in general. So you can kind of plan that out, between whether it's physical books, you can get films, TV shows from there, or you can work in your book. I know one of my friends uses it exclusively for audiobooks, so she will get 5 audiobooks every month there.
Wow.
And she listens to them all.
Now here's more and more things are coming up with extra perks. Spotify. If you are a music lover, or consumer, like most people are, and read, Spotify for the account owner gives you 15 hours.
I think it's, if you're Spotify Premium or something like that?
15 hours just for the account. Even if it's a family plan, it's only for the account owner.
Right. But 15 hours of reading. So basically, if it's an audiobook that's longer than that, you kind of have to.
You listen to as much as you can, and then you wait until
the next.
You don't even lose it. You just can't listen to it. I think they had an option where you could buy credits for more things, but most people, I think, just waited until it renewed, and then they did that. Now Amazon Music.
I was going to ask you about Amazon Music.
I just switched our subscription. He's Spotify, but then I had a Apple One, which I was getting away from because 99% of the things that they offer on that subscription I don't use. So I was like, do I really want to keep paying for Apple Music, or do I want to try Amazon? And my coworker absolutely loves Amazon Music, so I tried it, and I will say, from a music perspective, the sound is fantastic.
Is pretty amazing. Yeah.
But here's the other thing: is what is Amazon affiliated with Audible? Well, they have kind of competed pretty heavily with Spotify with that offer, but they've upped it in that you can listen to, and that's the other thing. The Spotify books, at least when I was on there for a little while, was a curated selection. It was not all books that have ever had an audiobook. It was a curated selection of books. I don't know if it's still that way, but Amazon Music, you get to listen to one audiobook from the entire Audible collection.
That's amazing.
Now, you could
everything that's
you
out
could
there.
get less for your bang if you listened to a 5-hour book, where if you had Spotify 5 hours, you could listen to 3 5-hour books. So
that's true. Yeah.
Each ways of looking at it, pros and cons. But I kind of liked the idea that if you wanted to listen to a longer thing and you started right at the beginning of the month, then you had that whole time. And they're the same thing. If you don't finish it by the end of that billing period, the next billing period, you can continue listening to it, but that counts as
that does count as your credit for that month.
For your credit, your book for that next month.
That's still a good
But there's
deal to me, I think.
so many great reading things. I mean, and as far as how to learn about books, I mean, there's just 900.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we like Book Page.
How do you like to learn about books? Yeah, we like Book Page, and if you. We subscribe. We get emails from Kindle lets us know.
Kindle, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop.org.
Certain publishers we subscribe to.
And then follow them online. Plus, you see the reading community online all the time.
Instagram's a great place to follow publishers.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
there's just so many. There was another thing that I was just going to think about, but it just.
Right out of there, huh? Yeah.
Flew right out the window. It's like that book.
Was it about cheesesteaks again?
No, we're not having cheesesteaks for dinner tonight. We already had those.
All right, it's been 4 days.
What was that book where the young boy had birds flying in out of his mind?
It was by a comedian.
Thoughts.
It was by Stephen Wright, and it was called.
It was like the name of a character. That was the title of it.
Stephen Wright's a really sort of eccentric comedian.
It was
who's been around
wild.
a long time. Yeah. I wish I could remember.
I can't remember of it, but I want to say it was like Howard or something like that, or sounded something like an older kind of name, and he just
it was like a day in the life of this kid in school in the 1960s, but he has I don't know if it's ADHD. He's got a great imagination. It's just this bizarre. If you like Stephen Wright as a comedian, or if you just like quirky things,
I have to look it up.
Just look it up, and I'll talk to you about other stuff. Hey, I showed this on another show, but there's my Karapi bottle. I don't even know who Karapi is. I know he's a famous...
It's Buddy.
Look, she says it's like me, because if I had a skateboard, you're supposed to be looking up this. Oh, there it is.
Harold.
Harold is the book
See, I
by
said
Stephen
Howard.
Wright.
Oh my God, yeah, birds flying in and out of his head. That was fantastic. It was great. It was a bizarre.
Really bizarre.
It was bizarre, but I loved it.
It was really quirky as hell.
And I remembered the other thing that I was going to mention. I know we're over our hour. We try to keep these to an hour, but
it's been the longest one yet. Because we talk about books.
See why I'm late all the time. Book of the month. Book of the Month is another subscription that really for as long as I can remember. Yeah. I mean, they were like an original, like the Book of the Month, like a very older thing that I started in like 1920s or 30s or something like that. But then it was kind of revived into a newer, version of that. And I've been a subscriber for a long time. Now, what's interesting about them is they've transitioned into also offering audiobooks for people to use some of their credits for audiobooks, on there. So that's another, I have to give them props. Sometimes they have some book selections that are not the big ones that you see everywhere else, and that's kind of nice because you get to learn about some fresh voices and
that's all wonderful. Did we talk about Kindle Unlimited?
Oh, Kindle Unlimited, of course.
If you're a Kindle user and you haven't explored Kindle Unlimited, I'd be surprised. But yeah, that's it keeps getting better and better.
Well, and I think you can see the evolution of the somewhat dissolving of the friction between Amazon and the traditional publishers, because oh my goodness, at the beginning of Kindle Unlimited you did not see any traditionally published books on there. I mean, the publishers really kind of resisted that.
There's a lot of indie writers, self-published writers, but also Amazon has their own, what do you call them, imprints?
Presses,
Yeah, where they'll have like a mystery section, romance, and it was a lot of that. But now you'll see,
and you
Stephen
had some
King,
independent publishers that wanted to have like a voice, go in there. Some
which
of the
is
smaller.
wonderful. I mean,
But then I started seeing, Simon and Schuster books. Atreya Books, which is an imprint, I believe, of Simon and Schuster or Penguin. I can't remember which one they're an imprint of, but you started to see these big authors getting there. Now, the thing there is the books don't automatically stay forever.
No.
Now, what's nice is if you download a book, it's going to stay on your Kindle until you finish it.
Right.
But you're only allowed a finite number. I think it's 20 downloads per person.
Which is pretty good. I mean, 20 is amazing. I've got like 6 or 7 saved on there, and I'll probably be forever until I get to them. So.
But their catalog has really started to grow quite a bit.
Something. So if you are a book lover, I mean, it's the best time ever for book lovers, I think.
Oh yeah. And I mean, keep reading. And look at if you're a person who likes the idea of reading or maybe once read but just doesn't have the time, I would encourage people to check out shorter works. I actually don't know why there hasn't been more of a kind of like surge of the popularity in short fiction and novellas. I mean, I can say as an author who once had a published compilation of short stories and poetry, I'm pretty sure 3 people bought it. It's a hard sell. That's why most publishers won't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Most traditional publishers won't.
But I mean, I think Amazon has started to make some ways because they'll have Amazon original stories, and some of those are really like fantastic. Some of them have series that are written by multiple different, big writers.
There was like an anthology or something a year or so ago where you had like all these horror writers who were all taking part in this thing. I think there were 5 novellas published over the course of a month. And I had read one of them by Grady Hendrix and one of Stephen King's sons.
And if you're someone who sometimes picks up a full novel and says, these books, this is why I don't read them. There's too much fluff in here. There's too much stuffing. And they're not wrong in some of that. I think there is a heavy influence by the publishers for writers to meet a certain word count mark, which readers wouldn't be aware of anyways, but that word count generally then translates into how big a book is going to be. And I think there's a lot of, unfortunately then, when a writer is told, oh, well, you need to beef up this and do that, sometimes it doesn't always come out as naturally as it can, and there's filler. And so when you have a novella, they're shorter and there's really not a reason to have that. And I mean, some books are just, there was a UK press, Fairlight Modern.
Fairlight Modern. We've read
they
some
have
good books
fantastic books for them, and a lot of them are short, and they just really hit the mark. And I think, you used to see a lot of that kind of stuff in the older fiction, and I would like to see that to become a little bit popular.
Especially with ebooks. I mean, it's the perfect time for there to be more novellas, you know, because it's not, the publisher before was always like, how thick is the book? The thicker it is, the more money I can charge for it. But with the ebooks,
they charge the same for everything anyways.
Yeah.
Practically.
Ebooks is a digital file, so just,
Yep. Oh my goodness. This is like a little recurring thing in our show. Did you hear that?
It was my reminder to take my 7:30 p.m. so I could take the pill.
Yeah, but that's not what it said. It said, this is a reminder. Time to take that little buddy pill.
And who do you think came up with that? Who programmed that?
Sometimes I go into the Alexa app and I tell her to make up stupid things to say as reminders, and it'll just, and I have to remember, is he having a show? Is he recording a show with someone else? Because at some point I'm probably going to mess up, and he's going to be in this really in-depth conversation with a writer, and there's probably going to be a reminder coming on to make sure to polish your banana sticks. And that person's going to be like, okay, first of all, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And what is a banana stick, and why are you polishing it? Please don't do it while you're on the show with me.
That's really naughty, huh?
I know. I probably should have.
I'm going to polish my banana stick. Good one, hon. Well, we're going to end on me polishing my banana stick. Well, golly, this was fun.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I hope you had fun.
Yes.
And if you're a book lover, well, like I said, if you ever want to leave us a comment, please do so, or you can email us at buddyandlisagod@gmail.com.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for being a part of our show. And
our show is going through a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
We were originally published through Substack, and if you're listening to this in 2050, it doesn't matter because this is 2025. Yeah. We started the show off publishing it directly on a specific account on Substack, but we decided that was a little bit too much work for us because we each had our own accounts and having to log in and out and try to grow all these multiple audiences.
And Substack was already distributing it. I have trouble with that word.
Yeah.
To Spotify, Apple Music, one of the places that you're probably listening to this right now. And we uploaded it separately to YouTube. Anyway, this is kind of like, all the behind the scenes stuff. You're probably, I don't need to go too much.
All that to say that if you heard a previous episode to say go to Substack and subscribe, don't do that because we're not going to exist there more than like another day or so.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to go to your individual platforms where you prefer to consume shows like YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, and podcasts.
Yes. On the flip side of that,
Pocket Case.
Well, I was going to say that my show is still on there, but I'm not sure what the state of my show will be on there either, the Pop and Prose show.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, it is in all the other places.
Yeah.
So you watch us or listen to us if you'd like.
I'm LisaMGott.com, and you can follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, at LisaMGottWrites.
Yes, and I got a newly revamped website, which Lisa did most of the work on. I'll be honest, it looks better than ever. It's BuddyGottWrites.com. I'm going to be doing a lot of the things that I used to write on Medium, the kinds of things I wrote there, like deep dives into music and pop culture related things. And maybe, who knows, maybe some book and writing type things are going to be on that site now. So that's going to be much more active than it ever was in the past. So it can be found there. I'm on Blue Sky all the time. I love Blue Sky. Oh, I do a lot of music challenges there and other fun things. And then what else am I on? Threads, I'm on some.
Yeah.
And Instagram, I'm trying to use more and more.
Yeah.
So we're around.
But if you we do each have pages about our podcast. So if you didn't catch all of that, go to one of our websites, and we each have a page that has links to find it on your. Spread it around, tell your friends.
Oh yeah, tell your enemies too, we don't care.
Two weird goofballs talking about a whole bunch of stuff, including banana sticks.
Yep, gonna end with I don't know, I'm gonna go off and polish my banana stick.
We're gonna go make steak and cheese pancakes.
Really?
Isn't that what you asked for? No, maybe not.
I'm up for that.
Yeah, I don't actually have the ingredients for that, so.
Well, I will Google it for you. So, folks, thanks so much for tuning in.
And go read a book.
Go read a book.
Yay.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.